What's going on, guys? JB the Barber here. Today I'll be bringing you my very first YouTube video. This is something special to me because it is done on my brother. He was my very first client, my very first person that I've ever given a haircut to. And now he's going to be the very first person I've ever done a YouTube video on. Now this will be a tutorial on how to do his haircut, his specific haircut. It's very different than what you would normally be doing at a barbershop. And I'm going to show you how it's done. Let's go. So this is the haircut we're going to be doing today. This is a mid-drop fade with a texture on top, also known as a crop top. But with my brother's hair texture, he has like this naturally cool, like wavy hair texture that I kind of want to keep. I don't want to mess with that, so we're just going to be cutting the top down a little bit and letting his natural hair texture give it that crop top look. So the first thing I'm going to do with this haircut is I'm going to create a bald guideline using my trimmers. These are the Babyliss Flash FXs here. I'm going to start at the temple, and I'm going to go ahead and drop this guideline all the way down towards the back. Once your guideline is set, you want to go ahead and flip the trimmer around and bald out everything underneath that line. Once I finish balding out this bottom part, I'm going to pull out my neck duster and I'm going to quickly dust off all the hair that's dropped onto him. This will allow for my shaver to go through smoothly, and it'll get all the hair out of the way so I can easily see what I'm looking at. So I'm going to use my Series 9 shavers here, my Bronze Series 9 shavers, to bald out the bottom. I want it to get skin smooth. I want to make sure that the fade has the deepest amount of gradiency it can have. Now I'm gonna, with the shaver here, I'm not going all the way up to the line. I'm probably leaving about half an inch to like a centimeter space between. I'm leaving a little bit of stubble there. I don't want to make any harsh lines with the shaver because it'll make it harder for me to fade it out. Once I've done that, I'm going to pull out my clippers here. These are the Babyliss Gold FXs. And I'm going to make another guideline parallel to this one, about an inch up. Once I've created my guideline, I'm going to start fading it out. So I'm going to close this clipper down 2 notches, which is the equivalent of half open or half closed, however you want to see it. And I'm going to go up about halfway through this guideline. Now that I've done that, I'm going to close the clipper all the way, and I'm going to work out that bottom line. At this point in the fade, I am done with the clipper closed. All I'm doing now is I'm playing with the lever, and I'm going to look for any dark spots that I see in the fade, and I'm going to do my best to remove it. The way I adjust the clipper here is that if it's closer towards the top line that's there, I want to open the guard up a little more, and if it's towards the bottom where I see a dark spot, I'm going to close the clipper more, doing my best to just remove any dark spots that I see. So as I'm combing and checking my work, I noticed that I've created a tiny line at the bottom here. This is the harsh line I was talking about when I use the shaver. All you gotta do to get rid of these lines is just go back at it with a trimmer, but make sure not to go too high. You just want to tap at that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to grab my number 1 guard, my wall premium guard here. I'm going to put it on my clipper, and I'm going to do the exact same thing I did with no guard. I'm going to create a second guideline parallel to this one with the 1 guard open. The only thing that I'm doing differently here is I'm doing my best to scoop out. I'm doing a little scooping motion to pull the hair out. What this does is makes it easier in the future for me to blend the fade into the top of the hair. So now that I went ahead and set my guideline, I'm gonna close the clipper down, and I'm gonna try my best to erase this bottom line. Now this shouldn't erase it 100%. It should still be a faint little line here that I'm gonna come back and touch with the half guard. After I've done that, I'm going to look for some more dark spots that I see in this section, and I'm going to mess with the lever here, and I'm going to go ahead and try to get rid of these dark spots as much as possible. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the half guard on my clipper here, and I'm going to go ahead and fix any flaws that I see in this transition. I'm going to go ahead and try lightening up these dark spots in his fade. Now that I've finished my fade on the side, all that's left to do is just blend the sides into the top. And I'm going to do this using clipper over comb. And the first thing I'm going to do here is just comb the hair out, making sure it's going the way that it's supposed to. And the way I do this clipper over comb here is I'm going to go up, I'm going to comb up into the hair. And if you look at where the comb makes contact with the hair at the top, you can see that there's a lot of hair sticking out. And towards the bottom, there's little to no hair sticking out. What you want to do is create a smooth line between the shortest length, which is the bottom of the comb, and the longest length, which is going to be at the top of the comb. Now that I've clipper over combed it, I can see now that there are some spots that look darker. This is due to his hair growing in different directions. So what I'm doing here is I put the 1 guard back on, and I've opened the clipper all the way up, and I'm doing my best to remove these darker spots. So now that I finished with that part, I'm gonna go ahead and put my half guard back on and detail any little thing that I see here. This is purely just because I'm picky. Any little dark spot that I see here, I'm gonna do my best to get rid of again, making sure it's as smooth as possible. So now I've put my 1.5 guard on and I'm fully blending the sides into the top. If I see any dark spots at the top of the fade, I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of it using this 1.5 guard. And after I'm done with this, the entire fade on this side should be complete. As I'm turning him in my chair here, I'm looking in the mirror to make sure that there's no errors in the fade, no flaws, no dark spots. And once it's adequate enough, I'm gonna go ahead and brush them off, double check it, and I'm gonna go ahead and start lining up the side here. When I'm lining up the side, I make sure to comb the hair out in the direction that it grows, which is forward. And I'm gonna go ahead and touch at this this spot here. I don't want to push it back. I want to keep it as natural as possible. So I'm constantly combing out the hair, combing it forward, making sure that there's no hair sticking out. And if there are, I'm gonna touch at it again with the trimmers, trying to make a sharper line as possible without pushing it back. So after touching up that sideline right there, I'm gonna go ahead and turn him in the chair one last time, taking a look in the mirror, making sure that the fade's complete, and I'm gonna go on to the next side. This side, there's not gonna be much to talk about because I'm just gonna be doing the exact same steps, so I'm just gonna let the music play. back part here in particular is a little different. I want you to notice the angle of my comb, how it's kind of angled up. And as I'm getting towards the bottom here, you're gonna see that I'm gonna do the same thing, clip over comb, except my comb is gonna be flat. This is because I'm trying to keep the same shape of the fade. It drops in the back on both sides, but I don't want it to come to a V at the bottom. I do want it to round out, so it looks like one smooth fade, not a left fade and a right fade. Me working at this back area right here will make it look like one complete fade. what I'm doing here is I put the one guard back on and I'm fully detailing my work here. Especially around this area, I want to be very, very careful. He has a mole right there and I don't want to cut it off. I also want to keep that spot a little darker than I normally would, just so we can hide the mole a little better. So as I was double checking my work here, I noticed that there's a little dark spot on this side here. I pull out my clip rover comb here just to go ahead and get rid of that dark spot and to make sure that the blend is as smooth as it can be. So now that I'm done with the sides, we're gonna go ahead and start working at the top here, and I'm gonna be trimming the top with scissors. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna saturate the hair with water, and then I'm gonna comb the hair in the direction that it naturally sits in. You want to make sure you're very particular about this part, because if it's not laying the right way, as soon as he gets home and he washes his hair, he combs it out for himself, he combs it the way it's supposed to go, it's not going to look exactly the way you want to.
Let's try something.
And you can see here I'm focusing a lot on the front, because we're going to be cutting a lot of that front off. He told me very, very specifically that big front puff in the middle, he wants that gone, make it for a neater look. Again, it's a crop top, that's how it's supposed to be. So what I'm doing here is I'm setting my guidelines here. He said he wants the front completely off, so I'm going to cut the front completely off. And that length that I'm cutting at the front is going to be the guideline for the rest of the top. So now that the length in front is set, I'm going to be bringing that length all the way from the front of the hair towards the back. And I'm going to do this maintaining a rounded shape. So as I'm getting closer to the top of the head, the angle of my fingers are becoming more flat. And as I'm getting closer to the back of the head, they're going more downwards. So now that I've cut the guideline, I'm going to go further into the hair here. I'm going to grab a little more hair and I'm going to match that hair into the guideline. So as I readjust him so that you can see in the camera, I pick the hair up here and there's the longer hairs towards right there, towards the back. And as I fold it down, you can see the shorter hairs in the front. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut those longer hairs and match it to that guideline, match it to the shorter hairs. That way it makes for an all even cut all around. Here is I'm cross-checking my work. Instead of setting my comb front to back, I'm setting it side to side, cutting off any hair that appears to be longer to make it an all even cut. same steps I did to that side to this one, making sure it's even on both. So now that I finished cutting the top of the hair, I'm gonna go ahead and comb it down and prep it for the edge up. Here I got a lot of space to work with. You can see that his natural hairline's a bit higher than where his hair actually sits at. So I'm gonna trim it about half an inch up. I'm gonna set my guideline there and I'm gonna work it towards the right. So now I'm just going to come around and repeat the exact same steps I did to that one and do it on this side.
talking about the gaps in your raps, but I can't feel that hardcore appeal that you're screaming. Maybe I'm dreaming. This ain't Christopher Wilson.
So now that I'm done with the edge up, I want to go ahead and enhance it, make it look a lot crispier, but I don't want to make it look too dark to where it looks fake. So I want to point out how I'm holding this airbrush right now. I'm trying my best to go at it at an angle. I don't want to go directly at the hair, because going directly at the hair will just make for some super dark lines and it just doesn't look good. So following my dye here, I'm gonna go back at it with the Black Ice Magic Pencil. This will give it that that highlighter look that women usually go for in their makeup. So I just set this line here, and I'm gonna go ahead and razor it into the hair. And then once I'm done with it, you can see that it really makes the edge up pop. It makes the lines look a lot crispier.
Let's try something else.
I'm going to go over the front line one more time just to make sure I'm cutting out any hair that is out of place. So that right there should conclude the haircut. You could see that the edge up's coming in nice. The little tiny details I put into enhancements, the black ice, everything pays off. And there you go, there's the finished product. And there you have it. That'll conclude my first YouTube video. I want to give a huge shout out to my brother. He was the first person whose hair I've ever cut, and he deals with my dumb hairstyles that I come up with now. He's a great model. He was an OG guinea pig is what I like to call him. I want to give another huge shout out to Orion. He made all these beats on this video. He's going to continue to make all these beats on my videos, and soon he will have a YouTube channel coming out, and whenever that does, I'm going to link him in the description. I appreciate you all for tuning in. If you have any questions, concerns, or just want to talk about something, go ahead and leave it in the comments below. I'll get back to you. If you like the video, like and subscribe. I got more coming soon.